Welcome back to my class. This is Learning Assessment and Evaluations course. I am Dialis Maya, and now we are in a fifth session of this course. These sessions we are going to talk about high quality classroom assessment. We're going to discuss the purposes of assessment. There are assessment for learning, assessment of learning, and assessment as learning. Our objectives in these sessions are understanding the concepts and objectives of assessment, identifying type of assessments, developing effective assessment instruments, and analyzing assessment results for learning improvement. Before Before we discuss further, let's check our prior knowledge about the definitions of assessment. As we learned in the third sessions about the definition of assessment, assessment is the process of gathering, analyzing, and interpreting information about learners' progress and achievements to make informed decisions about teaching and learning, and it serves as a tool to evaluate how well students understand and apply the knowledge and skill they have been taught. So by these definitions, we are going to understanding also the theory which covers these definitions. There are at least 5 theories has discussed the assessment, and these theoretical perspectives on assessments are behaviorist theory, cognitive theory, constructivist theory, sociocultural theory by Vygotsky, and humanistic theory. Let's check one by one of this theory. For the first one is behaviorist theory. The behaviorist theory said that assessment focuses on measuring observable behaviors and outcomes, and it typically involves standardized tests and quizzes. It's also emphasized on correct responses and reinforcement. The second perspective is a cognitive theory. By the cognitive theory, assessment evaluates learners' cognitive processes such as problem solving, reasoning, and critical thinking. The methods include performance tests, concept mapping, and reflective journals. It focuses on understanding how students think and process information. The third is constructivist theory. By the constructivist theory, assessment is formative. interactive, and ongoing. It emphasizes authentic tasks and real-world applications. Learners are actively involved in self-assessments and peer assessments. By the sociocultural theory, assessment considers the social context of learning, uses collaborative texts, group works, and discussions. It emphasizes the role of scaffolding and feedback from teachers and peers. The last but not the least is humanistic theory. This theory focuses on holistic development of learners. Assessment is student-centered and considers affective aspects like motivation and self-concept. The portfolios, reflective essays, and self-assessments are commonly used in this theory. By these explanations, what questions do you have about this theory? Which assessment align with the theory? I hope you have an insight of it. Okay. Okay. By that questions, now we will understanding the types of assessments based on theories. The types of assessments, as we explained before in prior sessions, there are four types of assessment: diagnostic, formative, authentic, and summative assessment. The first one is diagnostic assessment. The diagnostic assessment identifies prior knowledge and misconceptions. By this identification, it will be aligned with cognitive theory. The second type is formative assessment. The key concept of formative assessment is continuous feedback aimed at improving learning. So it will align with constructivist theory. Next is authentic assessment. The authentic assessment is real-world tasks that demonstrate application and synthesis that align with socio-cultural and humanistic theory. The last one is summative. Summative assessment evaluates learning at the end of an instructional period. It's aligned with behaviorist theory. After we understanding all the types that aligned with the assessment theory. Now we are going to discuss the core of these sessions. It's about assessment purposes. There are three main purposes of assessments. There are assessments for learning, assessment of learning, and assessment as learning. As we know, assessment for learning occurs when teachers use inferences about student progress to inform their teaching, and it's called formative. Assessment of learning occurs when teachers use evidence of student learning to make judgments on student achievement against goals and standards. It's called summative. And assessment as learning occurs when students reflect on and monitor their progress to inform their future learning goals, or we call it self-assessment. Let's check it one by one. Assessment for learning. Assessment for learning is a formative way to inform the teaching process. It occurs throughout a learning sequence, progress, and learning gaps. The example of this assessment is a seat works, a Q&A questions, and quizzes. This assessment is recorded but not used for grading purposes, so it's not graded. The second one is assessment of learning. Assessment of learning is a summative way what the student have learned, and it also gives to certify students' competence. For examples, the mastery test, a periodical test, achievement test, or midterm, semifinal or final test. And this assessment is for grading purposes. So this assessment is a whole package of the assessment. The third one is assessment as learning. Assessment as learning is known as a self-assessment. It assesses students' own learning, and also it's self-directed assessment. Examples are reflections or insights, and the purposes is for monitoring of own learning. As the conclusion, let's check this table. Assessment for learning, or EFL, the subject is teacher. It's a core throughout a learning sequence and is planned when teachers design teaching and learning activities. As well as assessment of learning, teachers is the subject of this assessment. This assessment uses teacher judgments about student achievements at a point in time and is supported by examples or evidences. An assessment as learning, or EAL, This will be a student-centered assessment. It involves students in self-assessment. Okay? The next question is, what question do you have about this session? Which types of assessment align with the theory and its purposes? How we developing effective assessment instruments? The answer of these questions will be discussed in the next sessions. For now on, it's enough for this session. Hoping you are learning. Thank you.